is Marina from Darkstar Astrology, bringing you the solar eclipse that is going to take place on the 12th of July. And I'm calling this one Dynamic Duo. Now, this is because it falls on fixed star Castor, which is the good twin in the Gemini twins. It's also counted as a Hades moon because it opposes Pluto. So it kind of looks like we're pitched up for a fight between good and evil. But it also solar eclipses do give us the opportunity to recalibrate the two sides of our brain as well. It's also interesting that the black moon Lilith is quite close by to Pluto as well. So it's a little bit of a Bonnie and Clyde energy, I felt, and that's why I used the Bonnie and Clyde as a bit of an illustration for the eclipse. So it is an eclipse of high contrast, especially when solar eclipses do give out such stark energy anyway. So, but what's really sweet about this eclipse is that it has a very soothing, grand Earth trine to ground us. That healing mud of Saturn in Capricorn connects harmoniously with a sensual and fertile Venus-Ceres conjunction in Virgo. Sparky Uranus, newly in practical Taurus, completes the circuit. The Earth's energy itself will be very potent and transformative at this eclipse. And it's also a great opportunity for detoxing, since Pluto is the grand purger of, well, you know what I'm talking about, waste matter. The moon falls in Cancer, which it rules, and is therefore very strong. And this decan is actually ruled by the moon in the Chaldean system and is the Pisces triplicity in the Vedic system. So it's extra watery and tide pulling. Put a new moon eclipse in a decan awash with emotionality, and what do you get? Volatile moods, devotion, extreme passion, and deep intuition. Inside there may be a tempest raging, but at this time it is also vital to display a neutral mask. If we are bitten at this solar eclipse, we will not be twice, but thrice shy. So, under the surface of this lunation, the Gemini twins are playing tug of war. So, even though we are in tropical Cancer, the solar eclipse falls in the decan that it contains the twin stars of Castor and Pollux, as I said. So, the energy is actually very bipolar, where we find it very hard to make a decision. The jump between playing the angel and the devil in the collective can be quite striking too. Those touched by this new moon, it is a new moon solar eclipse, might have to make the best of a reckless choice made in devil mode. Avoid emotional impulse buys, or you might be duped into tolerating bad behaviour just because you can't get out of the contract. However, if you are genuinely betrayed under the law, feel free to pull out the dark opposition of Pluto in Capricorn. Moon Cancer decan 3 type revenge will often come right out of the blue and be totally out of character. The moon is very forceful in this decan in terms of attracting luxury and comfort. However, investing in the family unit is rewarded at this time and is also supported by the Venus-Ceres part of the trine. So the general meaning of a solar eclipse, it's important to understand really what it is. I mean, it is a turbocharged new moon, and generally new moon rituals are perfect for planting new seeds and starting afresh. We're essentially working on the blank canvas of the dark moon, where our ideas can gestate in the new moon soil. But with an eclipse, the moon comes between the sun and the earth. Therefore, the lunar interrupts the flow of energy and causes disruption. It breaks our habitual behavior and gives us a kind of cosmic reboot. So the moon blots out the masculine left brain energy for a while, so the feminine right brain is flooded with instinctual and intuitive energy. This makes the unconscious conscious, like when you become aware that you are dreaming. So during an eclipse, like the lucid dream, we get that same sudden feeling of hyper-awareness. We could do anything. Sometimes this is so awesome that we don't know what to do, and others even become afraid of their own power. So at best, the effect of a solar eclipse can amplify insights gained from a very balanced left and right brain. The solar eclipse is very good at showing up any imbalances you may have, though. So just a good example of this is like, you know, if you're on one leg in a tree pose in yoga, the solar eclipse will come along and just poke you in the side, and it'll cause that wobble. So the amount of wobble shows how much centering you really need to do, and that's the job of the solar eclipse. It can bring an awakening or a shocking revelation that rocks you to the core, but it also aims to balance out left and right brain hemispheres and therefore consciousness, so that you're not lopsided afterwards. So with my moons now, I've started to look at tarot cards that go with the decan as well. So we've got the tarot card and the crystal. So this, the tarot card that's associated with the third decan of Cancer is the Four of Cups. The ambivalence shown in this card fits very well with the polarization of this decan. It's a card of boredom, actually, and apathy on one hand, but then also daydreaming and fantasizing on the other. So maybe this card actually longs for the dramatic mood swings that govern the decan, and the Four of Cups generally brings with it blues and moodiness. So karmically, this card can mean too many lives have been spent procrastinating and waiting for that 100% perfect person or opportunity to come along. So continuing with the definition of what a solar eclipse generally means anyway, it's really not a question of linear solar left brain equals bad. And, linear solar left brain is also associated with the masculine, not men, but masculine gender. And the cyclical lunar right brain equals good, which is the sort of feminine side. The person cannot function at its optimum without the unification and balance of both hemispheres. So some people have equal hemisphere strength, but the sides are disconnected, so they flip from one extreme to the other. Many artistic and spiritual types are right brain dominant, and thus can find it hard to ground themselves in 3D reality. So an eclipse may cause a crisis where the right brainer needs to strengthen boundaries and use rational thought. And now with a left brain dominant person, the opposite can happen, where boundaries are dissolved and they need to be open with their feelings. So later on, when I do my rant, I think I've found the subject matter that I have to talk about, because it is to do with, the left and the right again, left brain, right brain. It's the whole of life is really constructed with this polarity, and also the Hegelian dialectic. I can never say that word. Hegelian dialectic of divide and conquer. So we'll look at that later on. But let's have a look then at the fixed star. So it's fixed star Castor, and with the sun and the moon joined, they're both going to be conjunct Castor. So it's kind of nice. It's sort of a bit of a marriage between the sun and the moon on this quite nice fixed star, to be honest. Although, saying that, he's supposed to be the good twin, and then you read what Castor on the eclipse sun actually is interpreted as, and this is what it says, and it's quite surprising, really. It says prominence in occult matters, government work dealing with foreign affairs, serious accidents, blows, stabs, which are operations nowadays, really, that's the modern interpretation, shooting, shipwreck, which could be plane crash, injuries to the face, blindness, disease, violent fevers, evil disposition, which also used to be a term for, in old astrology, for homosexuality as well, rape or murder. I'm not saying that I think it's that, by the way. I'm just saying this is the term that they used to use. Okay, rape or murder committed or suffered, imprisonment, banishment, decapitation. So that's Robson's interpretation of Castor. Now, Bernadette Brady is a much more positive look at it, and she says it's skills with language, a profession linked with writing and communication, a storyteller, a poet, a songwriter, one who loves to learn, a speech is given, and a writer is honoured. That's the mundane interpretation. Now, Castor on the moon, Robson says it's timid, sensitive, lacks confidence, occult interest, and psychic ability. So it's more kind of psychic with the moon. Still blindness, still injuries to face, disgrace, stabs, wounds, imprisonment. And Bernadette Brady says of this one that it's the therapeutic use of humour which I like, to be involved in education, a desire to bring stories to others, to hope that everything will be all right, and to disbelieve bad news. Well, that's kind of false flags as well, isn't it, really? So, interesting. So, with the solar eclipse opposite Pluto, there could be a figure in the collective that becomes a scapegoat who receives all manner of evils projected onto them from the other side of the opposition. Those touched by the solar eclipse will find it difficult to trust others with their feelings or secrets, yet somehow they will become the catalyst for bringing to light other people's deepest, darkest demons. Moon Pluto will push the collective's festering boils to the surface, so to speak, which will keep psychologists, in-depth researchers and spies very busy for the next 6 months, because they last that long, these eclipses. Solar eclipses do anyway. On the negative side, these same folks can use their insider psychological knowledge for manipulation and to emotionally blackmail those who are naive and wear their heart on their sleeves. Now, Castor is supposedly supposed to be the good twin and was a horse trainer. He holds a harp in his hand, so he has musical talent and artistry. Sophisticated Castor was refined and civilized, but he still got into scrapes with his wilder brother, however. So the influence of the dark side is never far away. Robson says that it gives, well, Castor, the meaning of Castor generally, it gives distinction, a keen intellect, success in law and many travels, fondness for horses, sudden fame and honour. This great success can often be followed by loss of fortune and disgrace, sickness, trouble and great affliction. Its natives are said to be mischievous and prone to violence. So Castor isn't, I don't know why it's kind of called the good twin. I suppose it's the better of two evils, really. So those with Castor strong have to be, I put it down to they just have to be careful about the company they keep. The lunar influence of the decan makes them sensitive, very sensitive to their environment. So this sensitivity is great for psychic ability, but it also means that they give in to peer pressure far too easily. Eric Moore says that Castor is also noted in natal astrology for proneness to mental breakdowns and neurotic distress. I guess it's because of the sensitivity. So people with this star prominent and well aspected are exceptionally gifted intellectually. These geniuses often need help in not letting their concern for others go over the top, however. So that's interesting. So here is the healing meditation for this solar eclipse. Now, to help release emotion and tears without causing a full-scale flood, make the gods work for you by immersing yourself in this Cancer Decan 3 energy. Now, if your ascendant, sun or moon are in the cardinal signs Decan 3, you might find that you burst into tears at the slightest provocation. So to avoid flipping too fast from soppy to iceberg, try focused meditation or yoga with the Cancer Decan 3 theme. Now, you may wonder why I would recommend sort of getting even further into Cancer Decan 3 energy, but I think it works in a homeopathic type of way. So it's like a bit of the hair of the dog that bit you, really. That's how I see it. So the props will be 4 of cups to gaze at, cucumber and mint to eat, white roses to adorn your table, zebra jasper crystal to hold, music in the key of G to listen to, G sharp, sorry, and myrrh, rose and hibiscus essential oils in a bath. So I chose zebra jasper because I just thought, the black and white is just too perfect for Castor and Pollux energy, and also eclipse energy as well. Solar eclipse, it's bright and then it's dark. So the meaning of zebra jasper is that it holds, and this is just perfect, even the interpretation, it holds the energy of balance, uniting the energies of the masculine and the feminine. It is the anti-apathy stone as well, which is good because when you look at the card, the tarot card, that can be about boredom as well. So it goes with that too. It allows you to be optimistic despite life's stresses and gives you more initiative to tackle those problems. It will encourage you to dare to dream and turn those dreams into reality. And that interpretation is from Healing Crystals, which is a website. I think just look up healingcrystals.com. So the summary then, since the moon will block the sun's energy for a while, the qualities of moon on Castor will take over and the sun becomes more psychic. As you can see, even though Castor is considered the good twin, Robson's prognosis is pretty dire. Brady goes more with the educational and writing aspect, and with the opposition to Pluto, the influence of the bad twin is never far away. So this eclipse brings to fore the symbiotic nature of relationships. Now, in astrology, there is something called the Davidson chart, which is the combined, it's like a midpoint chart of both horoscopes of a couple. So it's like one chart of their relationship. Now, as single people, they might be nothing special. You know, they could be quite bland people. However, well, when I say bland, I just mean that they're not troublesome in any way. However, if you put them together, their single aspects could actually join to become quite dynamite, you know, so quite explosive. And the same thing can happen the other way as well. You can get two very troublesome people who become totally trined out as a couple so that they stay at home together, become totally neutered and cause no harm to anyone. So sometimes two bads don't actually make extra bad and vice versa. And that is the beauty of the alchemy of relationships. So with this solar eclipse, there is a chalk and cheese energy going on. So are the next 6 months going to be the collective flipping from one extreme to the other? Will the Bonnie and Clyde side of the opposition take power? Are people going to take the law into their own hands? Will they even be able to, with certain countries, i.e. the UK, becoming more like police states by the day? I also wonder whether this eclipse will bring about succession attempts in various areas. We do see that happening organically anyway, as certain communities are being displaced and having to move to areas where there are better schools. Maybe this is where the stark contrast of Cancer, Decan 3 and Castor will be played out. I also think that this eclipse heralds a 6-month period where dynamic duos become prominent. One of the duo will play the bad cop and the other the good cop. So, you know, you can have the sort of male-female co-hosts becoming popular as well, which is quite a thing they sort of do on British daytime TV, morning TV. But I imagine, though, with this particular setup, with the solar eclipse, that instead of the usual sort of TV drama setup where the male is the somewhat autistic bad cop and the woman offers the empathy, intuitive role, we might get the very opposite. So that would be a Cancerian lunar male who's very sensitive and carey, but a dreamy soul, and he may attract and actually need a very practical, realistic and skeptical female Capricorn Saturnian type partner. So you might find these themes playing out in your life if your angles or personal planets are in those cardinal signs, Decan 3. So with all the policeman bitch planets in Capricorn, the polarity here is very obvious. But that lush Earth trine is working in the background as a great leveler and healer. So don't forget to plug your feet into the mud at this solar eclipse. So what I want to discuss, I think, for this one is the whole left and right again. I mean, I've done this so many times, but it just doesn't seem to, it doesn't matter how much you talk about it. People still insist on putting people in boxes, and I won't be put in a box. I won't be put into the right-hand box anymore because I actually don't think I am right-wing anymore. All right. First of all, I don't think I'm left-wing either. But I think what's happening, I've come to the conclusion that there's a definite deliberate agenda of pushing people to the right, pushing people who are just normal, like I am, and I just do think I am normal, I am, and pushing us to the right because we have traditional views and just because we're actually not going with the whole propaganda agenda. Now, this is the funny thing is that I'll be accused of propaganda. And I think this is This is to do with the sort of Fox News paradigm, because in America you seem to have a very, I think you have a more obvious polarization between the left and the right than we do in Europe. I think ours is a little bit more nuanced, actually. But maybe that's because I'm British and I see it that way. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway. But in answer to, this was a comment that was left on my site, and I didn't want to go into a big answer to it because it just takes up all my time. But I think it's worth doing as a response on this eclipse video, because it is so much about polarity. And the thing is, the polarity, there's the left and right, but no one ever looks at the up and down on the political spectrum, which is authoritarianism versus libertarianism. It's not a left to right, it's an up and down as well. It's a cross. It's a cross. So and then my interpretation of this before, and I've said it before, that it really does go with the planets, because authoritarian at the top of the cross is definitely Saturn, and libertarian at the bottom is definitely Jupiter. The left and the right, I really do think the left is Neptune because it's collective, and individualism is right, which is Uranus. And people don't seem to get that the right is individualism. It's like hyper individualism. But the two extremes of the left and the right are both as bad as each other, because they tend to, when they become extreme, they tend to go more onto the authoritarian side. They move more towards the Saturnian thing, because when they get so extreme, in order to enforce these extremes, which aren't kind of almost natural to us, they have to be done by force, because people are not naturally so extreme. And when people are pushed to one side or the other, there's going to be an equal opposite reaction anyway to that. So none of it's wrong, you know. Well, extremes are wrong, I guess, because they're imbalanced. So anyway, this was the comment. So this was to do with the last moon that was on Faces, and so again, okay, this was the laser focus one, and the comment was, anyone who acts as if fascism is just another item on a restaurant menu is not someone whose perspective on astrology I can trust. These days is all pretty damn apparent. If you're not opposing violence, you're supporting it. And then, you know, there's always a little kind of personal dig. So, will we see you in a jacket matching Melania soon? Like Melania is a fascist. Anyway, so the thing is, fascism is on the right-hand side of this spectrum, isn't it? You know, of the... actually, no, fascism comes between, and I'll have to do a diagram of this, I guess. It comes between authoritarianism and right-wing. So it's on the authoritarian side of the right. Now, communism is on the authoritarian side of the left. So they're both as bad as each other. They're both two sides of the same coin. So why? And this the thing is, this violence thing, right? So this is assuming that fascism is very violent and communism isn't. I mean, really? So my answer to that was, you know, for heaven's sake, read a history book. Fascism and communism are two sides of the same coin. And on balance, communism is the deadliest ideology on the planet. So, you know, then by your logic, if you're not opposing communism, then you're supporting it. And you see so many people wearing... It's perfectly fine to wear Che Guevara t-shirts, you know, hammer and sickle sort of iconography, symbols rather, and nobody bats an eyelid when that's just as much, in fact, more genocidal than fascism. And I've also said, you know, if you go outside America and you see Eastern European countries, they'd be considered far right by, you know, places like Hungary, Czech Republic or whatever, because they're pretty traditional. They're basically on the same, their way of life is what I kind of support. You know, they're pretty nationalistic, you know, they're proud of their cultures. They don't want to be displaced by immigration, and Poland is the same. And I know a lot of Polish people because there's so many of them in London as well. But, you know, the culture is compatible. It's Christian. And as someone who was an immigrant myself, or not myself, but coming from an immigrant background too, and going to Catholic school, we all sort of jived it on pretty nicely. It's, you know, Greeks, Italians, Irish, Polish, you know, we're all together. And because these countries on the fringes of Russia had that experience of socialism, you know, of communism, you know, they want freedom now. So they are, I guess, I would say they're on the spectrum. They'd be sort of slightly to the right and more on the libertarian side because they don't want it again. But is that fascist? No, of course it's not. And that's where I stand on the spectrum. That's where I stand, and everything I write is like that. And yet you'll get accused of that when I just hold the same views as any average centrist in an Eastern European country, or for that matter, a Southern European country, because South Italy is just about the same as well. So you'll get that. And they're very patriotic and yeah, anyway. But the thing is, as well, is not only if you don't have exactly the same political views as someone else, if you're not on the sort of, I don't know, middle left, I don't know where I'd be. If you're not libertarian left, I guess, then you're a fascist. And then apparently you can't trust my astrology. Now, when I go to a doctor, do I say to them, what did you vote in the last election? Because if you voted left wing, I don't think I can trust your abilities as a doctor. Sorry. I mean, come on. Now, okay. Astrologers in the olden days, in the times of William Lilly, before it all went psychological, astrology was actually studied alongside medicine. So it's because some people say, oh, you're comparing yourself to a doctor now. Well, no, but it's kind of, yeah. It's only because it's a healing modality in different ways. Now, I also don't see astrology as, and a lot of people treat, or a lot of quite a few astrologers think of themselves as freaking gurus and enlightened beings, and I don't. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm not a guru or an enlightened being. I'm just a normal person who looks at cycles in the sky. That's it, okay? So I don't pretend. So I'm not going to have some kind of enlightened worldview, which presumably would be more Neptunian and collective, and we're all one. So as I said before, I'm not a Neptunian astrologer. I'm definitely a Uranian one, on the way to being a Uranian. I mean, for God's sake, I'm a stellium in Aquarius. You know, and everyone will find their own astrologer who's more, what's the word, compatible with them. And also, there's no right or wrong. There isn't, you know. So if I want to be slightly right, more right than left, so what? It doesn't make me a fascist any more than it makes someone who's slightly to the left side a freaking raving communist. No. In fact, to be honest, really, I mean, I do approve. I do think there should be a safety net. I do think there should be a welfare state. I'm not for total anarchy, you know. And if you're going to have a welfare state, that's going to be some kind of government, and it's going to have to be a bit authoritarian to enforce it. You know, and in order to fund this welfare state, you're going to have to take tax off people. And in order to do that, you're going to have some kind of authority to do that. So people who go on about, authoritarianism is evil, well, how are you going to pay for your welfare state then? And how are you going to look after the people who are, who are less fortunate? There has to be some kind of, what's the word? Framework for that, really. So it's all about the spectrum with everything. And if you are an astrologer, you know that all planets, you're going to trust an astrologer who says Saturn's really evil, man, or Neptune is bad news 100%, because it's lefty, or Uranus is really bad news because it's too right in its it's too individualistic in its expression. No, because there's nothing wrong there's nothing bad in astrology. There's no bad planets. There's no bad aspects. Well, there's no bad charts. There are bad aspects. There are difficult, challenging aspects within a chart. But you have to be holistic and look at the whole thing, the bigger picture. So yeah. Maybe I've overreacted to that comment, but people get so freaking triggered if you treat something like fascism as just another archetype, because it's an archetype. And no, restaurant menu, come on. So what? I guess she's implying that I'm taking it lightly, which I'm not at all. But people can take communism lightly. People can wear it as a fashion statement, can't they? And no one bats a bloody eyelid. And while I'm here, I'll read another one, shall I? I don't often get these anymore, thank God. But they're enough to sort of make me wonder about what people are thinking in their brain. This one was just a private message. It was the subject was self-respect, right? So this is going for the kind of, again, there must be something weirdly wrong with me or something. Anyway, so she quoted me, this was for, again, it's the same Faces post. God, that really hit a few nerves, that one. So she quoted, whose name is written on the assassin's bullet, which is what I wrote at the end of taken completely out of context. But anyway, she goes, you don't have any more taste than that, and then go on about the hurting of children. You're just a pawn in the propaganda machine and your advocacy of sorcery. Where did I do that? If a person hasn't the courage to be honest, fair and real, they can have no real self-respect, and no sorcery is going to save them. Oh my God, so I'm a sorceress now. What I actually wrote was, I don't know. Maybe the people just don't read it properly. Anyway, so I put, full moons can be used for both healing magic or sorcery. There's good or bad. With Faces, the potential for merciless elimination behaviour could be high. Whose name is written on the assassin's bullet? This can be a metaphor, by the way. This is a metaphor. I hope to God that's not literally. But we can do this psychically as well. And people do it all the time. Assassinate people from their lives. So, this is a purging too. Full moons are about purging things, weeding out people. And sometimes you have to be a bit merciless with it too, because they say you're going out with a heroin addict or something, and you love them dearly, but then you find out that that's what's going on. You have to be ruthless and weed them out, and not let your emotions, not let them wheedle their way into your house. So that's when you have to be ruthless, and that's very Faces energy. So maybe I was being very Faces in that post and being a bit ruthless, and it's obviously triggered people because I mentioned things like, World War II and fascism, and the fact that Moon in Capricorn 1 had a variety of so-called well, some were really fascists, and others have been called fascists when they're kind of not. And yeah, Melania Trump was in that list as well. So, you know, because I said it had a badass reputation, I don't know, maybe it sounded like I was being too trite. Oh, just get a bloody sense of humour. I mean, really, I wasn't saying that I loved, I shouldn't say his name, because if the bots might read it, seriously, they might read it as me saying I love one of those fascist dictators. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Even if you say it ironically or as a joke, you might be done for hate speech. So God Almighty. So yeah, so got to be careful. Got to be careful. But you see, I just think it's really important to keep a sense of humour, because otherwise you just go insane. And you know, if you don't get my sense of humour, well, you know, just toddle off. You don't have to send me emails about it. But then again, you know, I should just ignore them, shouldn't I? But I suppose the reason I brought them up was because I kind of wanted to address the issues, because they did sort of raise some interesting discussions, I guess, about how the difference between taking things metaphorically and taking things so literally, and how words are used, and how you have to be quite clever with words nowadays on the internet in order to survive, which is also very much the theme of Castor, because he was a writer as well. So being Gemini rising, I guess I do flip from trying to be the good cop and then just getting really hacked off and then going full Pollux. Yeah. So maybe I went full Pollux with the last moon. But hopefully I'm being a bit more good cop today. I don't know. Who cares? It's just fun. Anyway, I think that should bring me to the end, really. So with this eclipse, have a good one. And come to Darkstar Astrology, the website, for more astrology and 2019 horoscopes. And the other eclipses are up as well. If you want to get a preview of them before I do the YouTube videos, they're up as well. And also the July horoscopes will go up on July the 1st, and they will talk about Mars retrograde, which I think happened yesterday, and the effect of that on your sign, and also there's also the eclipse effect on your sign as well, if you want to check that out. All right. That brings me to the end. All the best. Bye-bye.